we did want to break down a little bit of drama that's been going down yesterday and today within the world of the People's Party.
Yeah, I wouldn't even describe it so much as drama as much as news, really. Like, because, I guess the elephant in the room is something that Gavin and I had not heard of yesterday when we were streaming. It kind of evolved while we were getting our van taken care of and moved, and then, popping on to do a live stream. Ryan Knight, friend of the show, announced that he was stepping back from his role on the advisory council of the People's Party, saying that he thinks we need a third party in America that represents the interest of the people, not corporations. But I believe that it must be rooted in socialism. I wish them nothing but solidarity in their vision. So, pretty much, it just seems like they were able to leave on pretty good terms, an amicable split, as they say. But it looks like the crux of the disagreement here is Ryan Knight, as his Twitter handle would suggest, at Proud Socialist, believes that the movement, the third party movement that he wants to be behind, is going to be rooted in socialism, whereas the People's Party, I think, is more interested in rooting it in a more populism, more People's Party kind of history, as opposed to a socialist history. What do you think, Gavin?
Yeah, well, obviously, we've been followers of the People's Party on this channel. We break down what's going on over there a lot, and we advocate for the movement a lot, because so far we think it's yielded pretty exciting potential. And I'm hoping that with Ryan Knight stepping back here, because Ryan Knight is someone whose voice we actually really respect at the Vanguard. A lot of people just know Ryan Knight as this Twitter guy who puts out kind of these catchy or pithy little tweets. But, if you actually talk to the guy, as we have on our show, he's a really thoughtful, intelligent person, and someone whose voice I actually
just a really kind guy. He's, I'm tempted to use the word sweetheart, even though I know that
for sure. He's a genuine person, which is actually counter to the narrative you will find on blue checkmark Twitter, on liberal Twitter, where they smear him all day long, and it's insanity. So, at first when I saw this, my stomach did drop a little bit, to be fair. Again, as someone I respect, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? This is definitely a little bit of a red flag. And, some people have pointed out that, maybe this is because the whole Jimmy Dore Boogaloo Boy episode, which was quite controversial. People saying like, well, if you're not wanting to, explicitly work with or call yourself socialist, but your prominent leaders are reaching out to, potentially alt-right militia members, like that's not necessarily the kind of coalition building that some leftists want to see. And I understand that.
Yeah, I'm sympathetic to that argument.
Yeah. And what I'm hoping is the case, though. And I'm hoping, that what the case is here is that it really is a branding issue, a conflict between, Ryan, who, like you said, has really branded himself the proud socialist, and the People's Party, which is, kind of made the calculation.
Notice how we adopt the capitalist language, branded himself a socialist, but anyway.
You know what I mean, branded, whatever. The way they're, kind of describing themselves. And here you can see, they say, we believe that building a working class party means welcoming those who agree with our vision and policies, even though they don't use the same ideological terms. So my genuine hope here, as someone who I said has, seen the potential and been excited about this movement for a People's Party, I'm hoping that they're still going to present a bold socialist platform, Medicare for all, universal health care, ending the wars, investing those resources back into our communities, a bold, socialist agenda. And I'm hoping that it can be a kind of situation where, a rose by any other name is still smells as sweet, right? They can call it populist progressivism, or they can call it whatever they want, but at the end of the day, it will essentially be a socialist agenda. That's my hope, because that's, the party that I want to be on board for. To be honest, I am a socialist. I do think that's an accurate description of my beliefs, or, the system that I want to see in place. But I also do think it's fair that, if you're running for city council in Seattle, as Kshama Sawant successfully did as a socialist, that's viable. You can win as a socialist in somewhere like New York City with the DSA, but it's a little bit harder to win as a socialist in Kansas, say, or Missouri or Nebraska, or, a number of red states that are rural. And, there might just be an issue there.
It might be out of reach right now. Yeah, I think exactly that's the point. And why and here's where I fall on this, because you're right. I do share a lot of the concerns about this whole Boogaloo Boy coalition. The only thing that I want to talk to a Boogaloo Boy about is getting him out of the Boogaloo
Yeah,
Boys.
agreed.
That's all I have to say further about that. But the thing that I do think is, and I don't know if that's what this is about. That was just some speculation. What I do think is important is that as long as the People's Party stays rooted in, like you said, things like Medicare for all, things like Green New Deal, things like ending a surveillance state, things like, what we would all describe as socialism. But that was a really great turn of phrase. Is that a slogan that I've never heard? A rose by any other name smells just as sweet.
It's actually a Shakespeare quote from Romeo and Juliet.
Gotcha. Well, there you go. Gavin's learned. I'm not. But either way, that's exactly the point. And that's why I think coalition building is really smart. It's why I don't give a fuck if you run as a Democrat. It's why I don't give a fuck if you run as an independent. I don't give a fuck if you run as the grilled cheese sandwich party. If you're going to institute socialist policies when you get to fucking Washington, I could give a shit. I don't care about any of these labels. It's all meaningless horseshit to me. What I want is people who are going to actually go to Congress and do what the fuck they promised that they were going to do. I want them to go there and say, I don't give a shit about your committee. I want Medicare for all for the people in my district and everybody else in this goddamn country. And I'm going to raise hell in this pulpit until I'm kicked the fuck out of here or we get it done.
Exactly. And honestly, my real hope coming out of this is that we can evolve into a real leftist coalition that can succeed in taking power. And despite the fact that we do talk a lot about the People's Party here, it's not like Zach and I are married to the concept. If there's another third party that rises,
we're open to anybody that's going to push these fucking policies. Gavin and I are policy people. We're about outcomes.
And I voted for Green candidates. I voted for Bernie Sanders when he ran as a Democrat. I believe in whoever has the best chance of winning and implementing progressive policies being the person that we get behind. And I think that the third party is definitely an option that is extremely important to empower and to smash the duopoly. That is almost one of the most central ideas in my entire politics. So I think that all third party movements currently, the vast majority of them at least, are on the left that are doing serious good work. They're doing really good work at a local level on things like ballot initiatives and stuff. So I don't want to disempower any of these movements. The Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Green Party, the Movement for a People's Party, hopefully, can also.
Rose's party.
Exactly. So, we need to work together. We need to be unified. Hopefully this doesn't devolve into more really ugly infighting as, things tend to happen on the left. Here's, wait one sec. There was a tweet down here, and apparently the People's Party put this out and then deleted it. This one, they're taking some shit for this. And they say most Americans are progressive on the issue. They supported Bernie and his campaign platform. But when you ask them to describe their political leanings, they say center-right. The policies bring us together, can transform this country. So, again, if you I don't necessarily know how I feel about it from a strategical perspective, because I think it just depends on where you are in the country. Obviously, like I said, if you're in Kansas, I understand, less about the cultural issues, more about the economic issues. Same with most rural districts. Liam O'Mara in California, who's running as a populist Democrat, talks about that too. When we talk to him, he says, I don't.
But look at somebody who had a lot of success like Brent Welder. They did not follow that model.
True. Well, they followed them. I don't think Brent Welder necessarily truly leaned into the, some of the cultural issues which kind of define people's stereotypical view of the Democratic Party. He
was definitely very into the Bernie policies of the time. The free college, Medicare for all, Green New Deal. Yeah.
So we'll definitely see where the outreach is going forward. I certainly don't think it's definitely in the best interest of the leftist movement to be like coalition building with the right wing, maybe as much as some people have been led to believe. I'm definitely in favor of trying to convert them.
I'm sus about that. I'll be honest.
We need to unify the left before we start trying to pick off people on the fucking right wing. And obviously we've talked about working with libertarians in some cases when it comes to certain issues, ending the wars. I certainly think we can have a coalition with libertarians that are anti-authoritarian and anti American foreign policy and that are more protectionist, and we can succeed in bringing our troops home or ending the drug war.
And as Ian in the comment section noted, an anarchist kind of political platform, especially a social anarchist platform, one that's built largely on mutual aid and taking care of a community, I think certainly could thrive in a rural community where they've been essentially completely Their trust of the government has been completely eradicated. All of their public institutions have been gutted completely. They're crumbling. They're failing. All that, the first thing that we can do is, show them that mutual aid can be effective, show them that things can be accomplished through solidarity and community, and then re-engender them into the political process that way. I think that's smart.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think this just kind of remains to be seen, because obviously the People's Party has yet to actually run a candidate. They have yet to, actually put anything really truly into practice yet. So again, I don't want to be destructive here, and we don't want to sow any unnecessary kind of divisions.
Yeah, Gavin and I are prepared to support whoever is in favor of the policies that we fucking support, which is why I think all of this is kind of background strategy, which is fine. Let's have strategy conversations. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think let's be clear with what we're doing. We're strategizing, and that's okay. What we're not doing is, having like we can have conversations about this and come to different terms without the need to savagely cut each other down to make the other person the enemy, the other. Because at the end of the day, what this boils down to me, is that, at the end of the day, Ryan Knight comes to a different conclusion on the best way to get Medicare for all for the American people, and the best way to get the Green New Deal for the American people. Fine. That's great. Let's all build a coalition together when it's time to cast our vote.
Yep.
And in the meantime, we can discuss our disagreements. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think that one of the things that the left needs to get better about, right, is that we need to be able to differentiate between good faith disagreements, discussion, even coming to disagreements with people and still being able to work with them in the future, right? And not assuming that everything that everybody does is bad faith, corruption, right? Yeah. And I think that being able to take a step back and say, okay, you know what? Ryan Knight doesn't want to be 100% affiliated with the People's Party, but he made it extremely clear he's not trying to slander them. He's simply saying that, hey, I stand in solidarity with these people when we need to get things done. When we need to force a vote on Medicare for all, Ryan Knight's going to be tweeting about it. He's going to be there arguing for it. But at the end of the day, they've come to a different conclusion. And right now, I'm Switzerland on this. I don't give a shit what anybody calls themselves or does anything. What I give a shit about is, do you want to give the American people health care? Do you want to give it to them right fucking now? Do you want to abolish the debt in this country? Do you want to make sure that people have health care? Do you want to make sure that nobody's sleeping on the fucking sidewalk in the dead of winter, that everybody has a roof over their head in a pandemic? Are those things what you're fighting for? Great. That's the fucking bar for me right now.
Exactly.
Everything else is secondary.
And and we can't get lost in the sauce of this, drama and this infighting when there really is a clear, common enemy that needs to be addressed. And that is, the corporate oligarchy. As a proletariat, we must, be firm in our resolve and our, common interests, fighting for those common interests for our fellow comrades, and not allowing little differences to get in the way of that greater goal. And that's why, we stress all the time here. Just because Zach and I might advocate for certain things and have strong opinions about it doesn't mean that, it's the end all and be all correct answer. We're always open to having conversations with people from that may feel differently. We're open to coalition building with other people on the left that, have a different strategical approach, and having those discussions. It's part of the reason why we started this channel. It's part of the reason why we facilitate the conversations we do. It's so everyone can have access to a space where, these dialogues are being had, where, we really are having these important conversations about strategy and about the best and most, fruitful way to kind of resist exactly what I was talking about, the establishment, the corporation. So obviously this is a developing situation, and we'll comment on this moving forward. I was saying, earlier to you, kind of joking around, like, if Cornel West, jumps ship, then let me know, then that'll be like a real, alarm if other people start to, jump off this People's Party. If Susan Sarandon and all the other advisory council members decide that there's, some issue internally that maybe we don't know about, then, obviously we'll report on that, and we'll let you guys know how we feel about that as the situation unfolds. I don't know much about the situation.
But for now, right now, I think that this is a pretty amicable break. I think that this is a matter of political disagreement and strategy and strategic differences, and I think that that's perfectly fine. Personally, I think that we only know what right now. Gavin and I only have the information that you guys have, right? As we learn more, our fucking opinions will change. But if I'm going off of just this information that I have right now, personally, I think This doesn't make that big of a deal to me. I still think just as well of the People's Party, and I still think just as well of Ryan Knight. I think he's just clarifying that they're moving in a slightly different strategic direction than he wants to. And I myself, I don't have a problem. I don't know. I've never been hung up on the like, oh, I'm this, right? Because like, Ian, you mentioned, do you want workers to democratically own and operate the means of production? Yeah. Does that make me a communist? Okay, then I'm a communist. You know what I mean? Like, I never really know what to call myself. It's like, I've never been too concerned about that. I think at the end of the day, if I were to scream on a mountaintop what I want, probably anarchy. So, yeah. But I think a lot of people, to them, that what they, what their political anchor, their history of the movement, all that shit is really important to people. I don't want to diminish that. I'm just saying, to me personally, the label thing has never been my game. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with this statement too. I think it's important to, kind of absorb the, different opinions and commentary of various comrades from across the spectrum, even those that disagree strategically. It's always good to get kind of, have your own beliefs checked sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, having an honest kind of coming to terms sometimes. So it's all important, in our own political and intellectual evolutions. And obviously it's a journey that we're sharing with you guys here at the Vanguard. You're privy to all of our inner thoughts and opinions as things unfold.
Yeah, Gavin and I have no fucking filter between what the fuck we're thinking about and what we talk about on the air, because to be honest, the whole thing that is the Vanguard is just me and Gavin are friends that are really concerned and care about these issues. And when we record these live streams, it's really no different than us having a fucking phone call where like other people can chat into it. I mean, this is the kind of shit that we've been doing for literally years, just in our fucking dorm rooms or like whatever, not actually sharing it with anybody. So, there is no like script here. This is us looking at the situation and giving it our best guess, our best interpretation, and trying to figure out, the true north of the situation, right? What's morally correct? What's the best strategic option? And obviously we're not fucking PhDs. We're just regular, people trying to, lick our fingers and stick it in the wind and try and move in the right direction, right? So obviously there's going to be times where our opinions evolve. There's times in the past where Gavin and I disagree, but the thing that we can always promise is that when you come to the Vanguard, you're getting an 100% honest, unfiltered take. And when Gavin and I disagree, we fucking disagree. It doesn't matter. Like we move the fuck on. But you're always going to get an unfiltered fucking take here. So that's about what we can offer.